All right, so you probably know the compact command in Claude Code already. And what it does is basically when you have a long Claude Code session, it makes it cheaper, cleaner, and more reliable. Because as you work, Claude Code kind of builds up a long conversation history of your prompts and all the messages, all the input and output, its responses, tool calls, errors, and everything else. And this history of conversation just consumes a lot of the context window every time when you enter a new message, right? And eventually, that one that is more token expensive, it consumes more tokens, and eventually useful information kind of gets buried underneath a mountain of, let's say, verbose chat history, right? And that is why you want to use the compact command. What it does is that it summarizes the session and it kind of cuts out the fat. It preserves what matters, and reduces it to its essence, and all the things that it doesn't really need to know, it just gets out of it so that the kind of context window, the kind of working memory stays fresh and clean and focused, right? So you get more space in the context window. You use less tokens for every message you put in afterwards, and there's kind of less irrelevant context that could potentially confuse the model. Now the question is when to use the compact command. You should also know that the compact command, executing that, running that, costs token. It costs input tokens because Claude will read the entire conversation history, and then it costs output tokens because it summarizes that. It basically gives the entire conversation history to a summarization prompt, and then it outputs the summary. So there's an input token cost and an output token cost every time when you run the compact command. But when used rightly, it's absolutely worth it because you will then save tokens with every future message. So the best time to use the compact command is kind of at a natural checkpoint. For example, when you finished a feature, when you fixed a bug, or when you completed one clear stage of the project. And you can actually, and you see this here, you can actually add instructions behind the compact command. So you could say, you can just type compact and then it will compact the conversation according to its own judgment, and that is very good. Yeah. But if you want to be more specific, you can also say compact, and then you can, for example, say focus on code changes, test results, and remaining next steps, something like that, right? Now, another thing to know is also timing matters. So Claude Code uses prompt caching, and the default cache lasts 5 minutes. So especially when you're using the API and your token build, right? Compacting the cache while the cache is still warm, so within that 5-minute window, can often be cheaper than doing it after a long break. So let's say you're working on something, and then whatever you're going out for lunch. Compact it before your lunch break rather than after your lunch break. You can see Claude actually has a great documentation around how it handles, what gets cut out and what remains. So if you want to learn more about it, just explore the Claude documentation. But the important thing to notice is, one, use the compact command kind of after a task or a stage of a task is finished. Then it will be a kind of cleaner cutoff and a cleaner unit rather than when you kind of mix it in the middle of a project. And two, if given the chance, it's better to do it within 5 minutes of the last message while the cache is still warm, so to speak, even though Anthropic does have 1 hour caching, and they have something that's called kind of pre-computed compaction summaries. So it's already doing a good job at kind of minimizing the cost of a later compact command, but if you have the chance, do it within 5 minutes of your last message.